Hello, fellow photographers. Today we're going to be talking about how to organize your photos. So if you're just starting out, you're probably thinking, well, why can't I just organize my photos in a folder, throw them in there and label it friend's 23rd birthday or something like that? Well, after so many years, it becomes harder to find those images. So you want your pictures in a way where you can easily find them if you want to again. So I'm going to show you a way that I came up with recently to start organizing my photos. I wish I had done this sooner because I have almost 2 decades worth of photos that aren't organized properly. So I'm going back and reorganizing them in this manner. So I'm going to walk you through how I organize my photos. We're going to go through some photos that I've never actually edited, probably because they got lost in my organization at the time. So these are pictures I took from a trip to Louisiana, Mississippi back in 2016. So let's jump right into it and I will show you how I go about doing this. All right, so the first thing is we're going to be using Adobe Bridge. You can do all your organization in Lightroom. I personally prefer Bridge just because it's better cross-platform, and if you update and you don't have to deal with all the time it takes to sync your images into Lightroom. So I'm going to be showing you how I do it in Adobe Bridge. So first off, we've got 2,728 pictures to go through. That is a lot, and also this is from 3 different cameras. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a name for them. So we're going to select them all. We're going to right click and we're going to click batch rename. So in the batch rename process, I'm going to do this from scratch. The first thing I'm going to do is going to be date. And I'm just presetting this for how I know I'm going to end up having to do it. So the very first thing I want to do is just the year. The reason we do the year first is so when all these pictures get thrown together, you can easily still categorize them by year. Then we're going to go to month. Then we're going to go, I clicked the wrong one. And we're going to go to month. Then we're going to go to day. And then we're going to do hour, minutes, seconds. And then these texts that I left here, we're just going to put a dash in between them. So now when you look at the new file name that's going to be generated, it's going to be year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds. So let's just rename all those. This is going to take a minute, so let's just bear with it. Now, as you can see, all these pictures have been renamed based on their date. So one thing that this is just a personal preference that I don't like is this isn't a duplicate image, but it was taken at the same millisecond as one of the other ones. This happens when you do a quick shutter, click, 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 click. You tend to get multiple images taken at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. I'm going to batch rename again. And then this time in batch rename, I'm going to get rid of all of these settings that I chose. And we're going to change this to string substitution. Now what I don't want is spaces. So I'm going to change that space to a dash. And all the file names that have a space in it have a parentheses just before it. So I'm going to find anything with a space and a parentheses and change it to a dash and a parentheses. So now, as you can see, they all have a dash and a parentheses in them now. So the next step that I'm going to do here, since there's multiple cameras that I use, is I'm going to make sure that they are synced properly. So when I click on the D610, I'm going to find something here like a lighthouse. And then I'm going to click on the D3200, and I'm going to find that same lighthouse. See, this was taken at 9:57 a.m. according to this. So now this lighthouse, here's the lighthouse, that was 8:56. So there's about an hour difference in those pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out which one is the accurate time. Now, with something like Google Maps, if you have it turned on to track your location, which I do for various other reasons, it'll tell me exactly where I was at what time. All right, so what I did was I took the Google Maps and I made a list in Excel, probably a little overkill, but just so that I would know when everything happened. So I've got the Biloxi Lighthouse and I see that we're there around 10:09 a.m. So looking at this lighthouse here, this one's saying 8:56, and then the D610 is saying 9:57. So they're both off a little bit. I don't care about exact minutes right now, but I want to keep the hours close enough together. So what I'm going to do, this one's close enough. So I'm going to take the D32 and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to add an hour to all of these times. And the easiest way I can think of to do this is going to be breaking them up in days. So first I'm going to select only the D3200 and we're going to go through and find everything from 5-9. And it looks like it ends right about there. So we're going to call that a 1 star. And then everything from 5-10, we're going to call a 2 star. 5-11, we're going to call a 3 star. So we're going to start with day 1. And we're going to start towards the end because we're adding an hour to it. So starting towards the end, I get a look at all of these here with a 16. And I'm going to call them a 17. And what we're going to do, we're going to select them. We're going to batch rename. And it's going to be a string substitution again. This time it's going to be -16. And we're going to change it to -17. And then we're going to rename. One thing we should probably do is change the sort here to file name. So now we've got the 17s. Now we're moving on to 15s. 15 is going to become 16. We're going to batch rename it again. Now, one thing you might be thinking is, what if this picture was taken on the 15th? Well, what we can do is we can see that 09 is when that picture was taken. So we'll just call it 09 first. That way it's only looking at that and then that. So if that doesn't match, it's not going to find it. So we're looking for 15s and we're going to make them 16s. So now that is just going to change just that one number there. And this one, since it's only one image, we're not going to change all of it. We're just going to change that 14 to a 15. Now we move on to day 2. Again, start at the end. And we've got 18 here. We've only got 2 of them, but we're still going to batch rename it. Batch rename. Now our date has changed to the 10th, so we're going to change this to the 10th. And we're on 18, and that needs to be 19. And then here we're on 17. And we're going to make it 18. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all of this. I'm going to go through this real quick, and then we'll meet up at the end. Okay, so now that we have all the files named properly based on the dates, what we're now going to do is go through and specify who took them. Because this was a family trip, me and my sister were both taking pictures. So some of these images are mine, some are my sister's. So we're going to start with the Nikon D610. I know that I don't let people use my camera, so I know all of these are mine. So we're going to select them all by pressing Control A, and we're going to give it a 1 star. And then I also know that my sister's camera, I took some pictures. And how I know when I took pictures with her camera is I take a picture of my foot first, and then I end it with my foot. So I know these are my pictures as well. And then I know all of the GoPros, that was my doing as well. So we're going to give them all a 1-star rating. So now we're going to come up here and we're going to select all of the 1 stars. And then under metadata, we're going to come down here to copyright notice. We're going to call it copyrighted. And then we're going to call it photo taken by James Engel. We're going to copy that because we're going to do something very similar in a second. We're going to apply it, and then as you can see down here, we've got a bunch of pictures being now labeled photo taken by James Engel. So once that's done, then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so now all of these here with no copyright notice, I know that these my sister took. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to call it copyright. We're going to put the notice, but this time we're going to change it to her name. And then we wait. All right, so now that all of those are copyrighted, we're just going to remove our 1-star ratings. And while it's doing that, we've got this sorted by file name. So once it's ready, we're going to have all of these pictures in order. So now we're going to go into Excel and we're going to look to see where we were at 5/9 at 3:17 p.m. So 5/9 and at 3:17-ish. So this is going to be Bourbon Street. So it looks like up until 4:20, we're just going to call it Bourbon Street. So from that picture to this picture, we're going to go into our keywords panel. We're going to add a new keyword. We're going to call this one Louisiana. We're going to add a sub keyword to that. We're going to call it New Orleans. And we're going to add another keyword, and we're going to call this the French Quarter. So all of these pictures we've got selected, we're going to tag them with all 3 of those tags. And then we're going to move on over to here. So this is Jackson Square. And we're going to select it all the way to over here. And we're going to add a new keyword under New Orleans and call it Jackson Square. And then select it with all of those keywords. All right, these are just pictures of the Welcome to Mississippi sign. So we're going to create a new keyword and we're going to call it Mississippi. And because we're in a car, I'm just going to leave these as Mississippi. All right, so these, I know we were in Mississippi. According to my Excel map, we were at Outback around this time. So where exactly that is, I'm not 100%. So we're just going to call it Mississippi and then by the city name. So we're going to add a new keyword here. And we're going to check mark both of those. Now, if I find out later exactly where that is, I can go back and re-add the keyword, but this is at least organizing it a little bit for me. This one we're just going to list as Mississippi. Sometimes videos don't let you store metadata, so some of these may be without, but because it's got the proper file name, I can easily figure that out later on. So these here, we're at the Biloxi Lighthouse. So we're just going to select all of the ones at the lighthouse. It's going to be up to here. So under Mississippi, we're going to add a new keyword. We're going to call it Biloxi. and then a new keyword to that, Biloxi Lighthouse. And we're going to select all of those. Now I see an alligator, so I know we're at an alligator ranch at this point. So we're going to select them all the way up to here. We're going to add a new keyword under Mississippi, and we're going to call this Moss Point. And then under Moss Point, we're going to do a new keyword, and we're going to call it Gulf Coast Gator Ranch and Tours. And we're going to select all of those keywords. These three, we're just going to see if we can add Mississippi to it. Those are videos that don't always allow it. So for all of these, since don't really have a exact location, we're going to add a new keyword to Mississippi. And this we're going to call Quitman. I know we are near that area. And we're going to just select Quitman and Mississippi. And then starting here, all the way up to right about here, we're going to have a new keyword under Mississippi. And we're going to call this Jackson. And then under Jackson, we're going to call it and we're going to check all three of these. These we're going to call a new keyword. We're going to select all of those up to there. And under Vicksburg, we're going to call it, and then we'll check mark all of those. And then for these, I'm also going to add a new keyword and just call it National Park. This here, we're just going to call it Vicksburg, because I don't remember the name of the little park we were at that was near the military park. Now, I can look it up and figure it out. I might do that later on, but for now, we're just going to call it Vicksburg. This here, Duck Commander. So this is going to be in Louisiana. So we're going to go back to our Louisiana spot. And we're going to add a new sub keyword. And we're just going to check mark these. All right, and these last pictures I don't really have a reference for except for the time. It was about an hour after the Duck Commander pictures. So if I look at my Excel sheet, I see we got to Duck Commander at 4:32. So I'm looking at where we were at 5:32. So we were driving somewhere, let's say about 50 miles from West Monroe. So I need to figure out what state we were in for these pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get Google. I'm going to go to Google Maps. And leaving from there, let's do directions. We're going to get somewhere about 50 miles. So I want, flip that, and I want this to be, let's see where that is. So that's only 9 miles. So let's zoom out a bit. And let's put that right around here. So that's 15 miles. There we go. We got about 50 miles right there. So let's see where we are there. So we're still in Louisiana at about that point. So I'm just going to call these Louisiana. I'm not going to give it a specific region because I don't know, but an approximate is still Louisiana. So now when you look at your filter and you look at your keywords, see I've got 6 that don't have a keyword, but those are all the videos. And then everything else has a keyword that associates it with where it was taken. Now adding the people. This one takes a little bit longer, but this picture here my sister took of me and my mother. So we're going to add a new keyword. We're going to come under here under people. I'm going to select my name and then my mother's name. So now we've got the people added to it. Now this is going to take a little bit longer, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now, and I'm just going to go through and edit the people in here. All right, so at this point, I've gone through and I've added keywords to all the people. I also went through and added keywords to the animals and to some flowers as well. So this is generally where I tend to leave it for now. At a later point in time, if I want to come back and add a keyword for what that specific building is, or if there's like a cannon and I want to call that, or I want to call this a statue. Those are keywords I might go back and add later. For now, this is a good amount of keywords that I have, and if I want to just see what's in Jackson Square, I can just click that and see all the images here of Jackson Square. I can see, okay, I just want to see Louisiana. I can look at Louisiana. And if I want to see reptiles, I think I should have probably shut off Louisiana first, but then I can just see reptiles. So that's how I go through and organize my images based on keywords and file names. Now, when it comes to storing them, if you look over here on this screen, they're just in a folder that says 2016. Right now we have 5,000 plus files in just this folder, and this is just from 3 days. So imagine what a whole year would be. So I like to break it down one step further and go ahead and do a month as well. So we're just going to create a new folder here. We're going to call it 05 space dash May. Now, the reason I put the 5 in front of it is that way it will keep my folders organized when I have all 12 months, and I will know in order which one they are. So now I'm going to select all of these files, and I'm going to move them into the May folder. Now, when you go into 2016, you'll just see the folders. Now, since I haven't done any of the other months from 2016, we've only got this one folder. And what you might be thinking is, well, I can't see any of the pictures. I can't search for the keywords. I mean, how is this a better source of organization? Well, it comes into here where you can click View and Show Items from Subfolders. Now, this will take a minute for it to get everything. So whether you're just looking in that 1 year and looking at all the different months pictures, or whether you're looking in that whole decades or all of your pictures, this will pull them all up, and it does take a second to build the criteria, but once it does, we're going to be able to see all of the different keywords we have listed for all your entire catalog. So that way, if you want to look at just your reptile pictures, or if you just want to look at your bird pictures or something like that, you can go through and you can just click on that keyword and it will pull them all up from whatever parent folder you started in. So if you started in 2016, you'll see all of them from 2016. If you started in all pictures, then it will pull up in all pictures. So when you look at them, now I can see all of the pictures of, say, a brown thrasher that I have in 2016's folder as of right now. Say I want to see all the pictures I have at the Biloxi Lighthouse. I can look at all of those. And when you have multiple folders, this just helps keep it organized if you're only working at a smaller section at a time, or whether you want to look at them all. And you can easily click them all and put a 1-star rating on absolutely all of them. You could edit multiple ones from different subfolders at the same time. There's just, it seems to be the best organization that I've come up with as of now. but times do change, stuff does change, so later on this might change as well. So now that we've gone over how I like to organize photos, next week we are going to talk about editing photos and how I personally edit my photos and how that's progressed and changed over the years. So until next week, happy shooting, good luck staying organized, and I will see you next week.